white people adopt black children.
I got a question. Why are there so many black children that need to be adopted?
No, I got a question. Did you know that for the majority of the time adoption has existed as a system in the United States dating back to the 1800s, adoption agencies would just flat out refuse to facilitate adoptions of black children for any reason? Did you know that if a child was adopted during that time and it turned out that child was actually, let's say, 20% black, that the adoption agency would go to the white adopters and say, hey, we'll take that kid back, we'll give you a white kid instead. And that it wasn't until years, if not decades, after white people started adopting Latino kids, Native American kids, Asian kids, that black children were finally seen as socially acceptable to adopt. For many decades in adoption, white families would rather adopt white children with physical or mental disabilities than fully healthy black children. And that when black children were finally becoming quote unquote adoptable, adoption agencies would give discounts on black children to anyone who wanted to adopt black children. Some of those discounts still being offered by adoption agencies today. You might hear all this and think to yourself, well then why aren't black people adopting black children? And that's a fair question to ask. The answer, however, is probably more obvious and straightforward than you expect. The adoption system in itself was exclusively built to serve white people. White people were the only people allowed to adopt for many, many, many years in this country. And as adoption agencies slowly phased out their policies of just blanket discrimination against black people, they actually tried to create programs to incentivize black people to adopt black children. But there were obvious issues. The lower socioeconomic status and segregated housing of African Americans, supposed lack of adoption awareness in the African American community, and cultural blocks produced by deep insecurity and prejudices were all offered as reasons by agencies for why they arranged so few black adoptions, as they were called at the time. Despite launching programs that were specifically designed to combat the attitude that, quote, adoption is a white man's luxury and recruit African American parents, 40 to 70% of African American couples who filed applications with agencies dropped out of the adoption process, rates far higher than their white counterparts. Because while black people were finally not outright excluded from the process of adoption, it's not like they were the primary customers. It's important to remember that adoption was and is a system built to serve rich white people. It's a pay-to-play game. You gotta have enough money to participate, which is why more than 70% of hopeful adopters in this country are white. And to answer that guy's disingenuous question, part of the reason why there are so many black children in need of adoption, which is a complete lie, in this country is because more than 50% of black children will experience a CPS investigation before their 18th birthday, as opposed to less than half of that with white children. At the end of the day, adoption is a system that reflects and rewards privilege. On the supply side, you have CPS, also known as the Family Policing System, extracting children from black families and making them available for adoption. And on the demand side, you have a bunch of white people who can afford to adopt, as opposed to everyone else who simply can't afford to pay 50 grand for a kid.